Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Jacob and Jacob podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Robum, coming to you live from Camp Lane overnight camp up in the Poconos, being joined by my co-host, Jacob Harry, who's back in the Philly area. And today, very special guest, head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights, Peter DeBoer. Coach, thank you so much for being with us today.
Happy to be here, guys.
So, Coach, I want to go into first your time with the San Jose Sharks as the head coach there. And I want to ask about how you built such a winning culture in San Jose.
Well, it's a great question. I think I was fortunate that I inherited a pretty good culture when I got there. They had a very good team for probably almost a decade, probably from the point they traded for Joe Thornton from Boston, up until I got there. When I took the job, everyone told me that the window for that team to win had closed, that Joe Thornton, Joe Pavelski, Brent Burns, Vlasic were all too old, and that they had missed their opportunity. And, the exciting part for me was I didn't agree with that. I thought they still had plenty of game left. They still had the ability to win. They had an off year the year before, but they were a hungry group with a lot of pride. And, that first year that I got there, we ended up going to the first Stanley Cup final in team history.
So I want to ask about that Stanley Cup final. Obviously, you faced Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team that has had so much success in his time in Pittsburgh. What makes Crosby so good, and what's it like sort of to prepare your team to face a player of that caliber?
Well, the beauty of Sidney Crosby is not only at that point was he the most skilled player in the world, he also was the hardest working player in the world, and maybe the strongest on his skates in the world, fearless. So when you combine those things, it's really hard. There really was no chinks in the armor to expose. I mean, he did everything well, and he did everything hard and everything at a high level. And when your best player's, that good and that honest a player, the rest of your group tends to follow. So he was exceptional. That was in his prime. He's still very, very, very good. But in his prime, he was by far the best player in the world at that point.
So I want to talk about right now with the Golden Knights. As Earlbaum said earlier in the podcast, you built a winning culture with the Sharks, and then you went to Vegas and you built another winning culture there. What was it like transitioning from the Sharks and then going to the Golden Knights and having to build another winning culture?
Yeah, well, you know what? I learned a lot early in my coaching career from Lou Lamoriello. I got a chance to work with him in New Jersey, right up the road from you guys in Philly. Spent a lot of time, obviously, with my kids in minor hockey going into Philadelphia and playing against the Little Flyers and Comcast and all those teams. But Lou really showed me what it was like to have a winning culture around your dressing room at the NHL level. And it was the first time I had really seen that. So I had the benefit of working for Lou, going to a Stanley Cup final with New Jersey, took that to San Jose, and then obviously coming into Vegas again, I inherited a very good team, a team that had success earlier in their career, but it started to stumble a little bit. And, for me, it was just a matter of getting them back on track. And, it's been a real enjoyable place to work, great guys. And we've got a chance to win, 2 years in a row. We've been to the conference final. And I think next year, hopefully we can go all the way.
Yeah, so before we go into this year's postseason and sort of your time in the bubble in Edmonton, I want to ask one more question about the transition from San Jose to Vegas. Was it sort of odd going from a division rival to another division rival, sort of San Jose and Vegas? Obviously, that rivalry has grown extensively as Vegas has come into the league.
Yeah, it was. It'd be similar to going from the Yankees to the Mets or the Devils to the Rangers. There was a lot of animosity, a lot of heated playoff battles between the two teams. A lot of hatred between the two teams, actually, in San Jose and Vegas. In the short time Vegas was in the league, I think we played each other twice in the playoffs. So, I was surprised I got the call. You never know. what a rival is going to think of you. But I took it as a compliment. They obviously thought in San Jose our teams played hard and did the right thing. And, I was really happy when Kelly McCrimmon and George McPhee called.
So I want to ask you about this past postseason and your run to the Stanley Cup Semifinals. Obviously, first round against Minnesota, you guys were up 3-1. Minnesota crawled back into the series to force a Game 7. And then in the second round, you guys went down 2 games, and then you guys won 4 consecutive games to knock off the Avalanche. How did your team sort of stay focused when you went down 2 games? And did you use the example of the Wild's comeback in round 1 to sort of spark your team and say you guys are still in this, you still have a fighting chance?
We did. We did. And you know what? I think when you get in those moments, when we were up 3-1 against Minnesota, you had to give them credit because they really didn't quit. They worked hard the entire series, and they kept pushing and gave themselves a chance. And I actually liked how we played in Game 5, and Talbot stood on his head and won them that game. Game 6, we didn't play as well. We played most of that series without Max Pacioretty, our leading goal scorer, and he came back for Game 7, which was a huge boost for our group and was a big difference maker in Game 7 for us to move on. The Colorado series was interesting because Game 1 we looked like we didn't belong on the same ice with them, and then we lost Game 2, but I really liked how we played. I thought we outplayed them, and that gave us a little bit of belief, even though we were down 2-0, that we were right there.
So, I mean, then in the semifinals, when you guys played Montreal, you went up against one of the greatest goalies of all time in Carey Price. As a coach, how difficult is it to prepare to play Carey Price?
Well, it's really difficult. When the other team's best player is their goalie, that every game is going to be low scoring. You have to be prepared for the frustration that you're only going to get 1 or 2 goals a night. And you've got to be prepared mentally to win 1-0, 2-1 games. And, players at the NHL level are no different than you guys who play. Everyone wants to score. Everyone wants to win 5-4 or 5-3. They don't want to grind for 60 minutes and win 1-0. But when you've got a guy like Carey Price at the other end, like Vasilevsky in Tampa Bay, you saw the score of Game 5 there was a 1-0 game. Game 7 in Islanders Tampa, 1-0 game. So you have to prepare your group to be comfortable in those moments. And I thought for the most part we were disappointed. We obviously couldn't get by Montreal, but we have to give Montreal credit. They played really well against us. Price was their best player, and he did that not only to us but to 2 real good teams in Toronto and Winnipeg.
After a heartbreaking loss in Game 5 to Montreal, what was the message to your team in the locker room, and what is your sort of look going forward now as you prepare for the offseason and sort of getting ready for next year and hopefully another long playoff run for the Golden Knights?
Well, I think every year you look at your group and you talk about the areas you made improvements, the areas you have to get better. And I think we were a better team this year than we were the year before in the bubble. We tied, we played for the President's Trophy with Colorado right up until the final week of the season. We knocked off Colorado, arguably the best team in the league. We played a Minnesota team that played a style that historically gave us lots of trouble that we found a way to get through. So there was a lot of good things there, but obviously, the message after the Montreal series was we were better than we were a year ago, but we're still not there yet. So, go home. Let's improve our game. Let's improve our tactics. Let's improve our personnel and make sure we can get over the hump.
So with tomorrow's announcement of the expansion draft picks for Seattle, obviously the Golden Knights are exempt from that draft. So your focus must be on the Nhl Entry Draft, which is coming up just a few days after the expansion draft. How have you guys been preparing for the entry draft, and sort of what's your outlook on this year's prospects?
You know what? The coaches, as coaches, we don't play a big role in the amateur draft. I know our group is excited. We have our first round pick and New Jersey's second round pick, which is a high second round pick. So I think we've got 2 picks in the top 36. So we should get 2 good players there. I know our group's excited about that. And to be to have gone to 2 conference finals and still have your first round pick is pretty rare. Usually you have to trade those at the deadline. So I think the fact we've had some good runs and have still been able to keep our picks and are going to be able to put some young, good players in the pipeline is exciting. The more important part for me is the following week, which will be free agency, and hopefully some of the guys that can come in and immediately help us now.
Is there anything in particular that you guys are looking for to add in free agency?
Well, I think I thought we defended really well this year. I don't think keeping the puck out of our net was an issue. I think scoring and power play at key moments were probably our Achilles heel. So anybody that can help in those areas, I think it would probably be at the top of our list.
Obviously, with you guys, you're a sort of core veteran group. You have Pietrangelo, who you guys brought in free agency last season. Obviously, Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty. How have those guys sort of been such great leaders for your team, and how have they helped you guys been so successful?
You know what? Those guys are first and foremost great players, but more importantly, they want to win. They're more concerned about winning a Stanley Cup than they are about their personal statistics at this point in their careers. And that's what you need from your best players. When they get to that point where they're willing to do whatever it is to win and check their personal successes at the door if they have to in order to do that, you have a real chance to win. And I think you see that, with Kucherov and Point in Tampa and some of the tough moments they've gone through over the last 5-6 years, and then now they've come out the other end of it. So, those guys are our key guys, and every year they get a little bit better and a little closer to understanding what it's going to take for us to win.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier with Max Pacioretty how in the first round he missed the first 6 games of that series, and then to come back in Game 7 and make the impact that he made. Does that just show the importance of Pacioretty to your club and just sort of how dynamic of a player he is and how much he leads your team?
Yeah, Patch is a critical piece for us. He led our team in goals. This is a hard league to score in, and particularly come playoff time. So, having guys in your lineup that don't need a lot of looks in order to stick one in the net. Patch is one of those guys. He's got a shot that he only needs to get it off once or twice a game in order to score. A lot of other guys need to get 5 or 6. So he's got a great gift there, and he's at that age now where he's hungry to win a Stanley Cup, which is great.
And then on defense, you guys are led by Pietrangelo, like we mentioned earlier, and then also Shea Theodore. How have those 2 guys been so good for you guys defensively, and combining with the great goaltending from Marc-Andre Fleury to make you guys such a good defensive team?
Well, we went out and got Pietrangelo last summer. Huge free agent signing for us. I knew he was good. I didn't know how good until we got to the playoffs this year. He really took his game to another level. You can see why now. He was a captain of a Stanley Cup championship team in St. Louis. And it was exciting to see for our group, because that's what great players do, and that's what you need to win. Shea Theodore was a young defenseman when I got here that was just coming into his own. And, now he's in the Norris conversation every year. He's got great speed and great skill. And he's just getting better and better. I think he's still got another level to get to for us. So, our defensemen as a group are really the foundation of our team. They do a great job. We've added some young guys there in White Cloud and Haig, Coughlin, who are up and coming and really look like they're going to be good future NHL defensemen.
I want to ask you about a player that you guys just brought in Nolan Patrick, obviously shipping Cody Glass to Nashville and then bringing in Nolan Patrick. What excites you about Nolan's potential? Obviously, 2nd overall pick a few years back, didn't really live up to the potential that people set for him out in Philly. Obviously dealt with a migraine disorder that caused him to miss an entire season. And then last season with all the COVID issues, he never really was able to recover from that. And then ultimately Philly made the decision to move on from him, and then Nashville sent him your way. What excites you about bringing in a player that sort of hasn't proved himself yet and still has a chance to do that?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's not talent. You don't go second overall with a world-class talent. There's not many second overall picks that don't turn into very good, productive NHL players. So I think it's just circumstance with him. He's had a lot of bad luck injury-wise early. And what excites me is, you can't get guys like that in trades. If he hadn't got hurt and got off to the start to his career that everyone expected he would, those guys never become available. So, the fact that he's had some misfortune has made him available, and we jumped on it. And I think if he's healthy, he's going to be a very good player for us.
Have you had the chance to have any conversations with Nolan yet?
I have. I called Nolan right after we traded for him. He's training in Winnipeg, Manitoba at home. He's excited. He's healthy. And like a lot of young players, he's got a chip on his shoulder to prove that he can be the player everyone thinks he can be.
For sure.
And, I'm a big Flyers fan, and I was disappointed to see Nolan go, but I'm still rooting for him and hoping that he has a nice turnaround to his career over in Vegas.
Yeah, well, I can't say I'm a Flyers fan, having coached the Devils for 5 years. I'm a Nolan Patrick fan, so we share that in common.
For sure. Well, Coach, we want to ask you one more question before we let you go. How has it been, seeing Vegas become such a great hockey city, and sort of the fans becoming so invested in the team there, especially with the team becoming coming into the NHL just so recently, and hockey never really being that prominent in that city?
Yeah, it's been amazing. When I coached in the East in New Jersey, I was always amazed at the Philly rink and the passion of the fans. Vegas has that type of passion in the building, and not every rink has that. That's pretty rare. So it's unbelievable. And I remember when Vegas got the expansion franchise, everyone was skeptical about whether it would work, or, if they did fill it, it would be half fans from the other team that were in visiting on holidays, and the Vegas fans would only be half the building. It's actually been the opposite. It's been all local people, packed to the brim with Vegas Knights fans, Vegas Knight logos, T-shirts, bumper stickers everywhere around town. It's an incredible how quickly it's caught on, how great it's been. And I don't think anyone predicted it except maybe our owner. So just happy to be along for the ride.
Yeah, I know watching the Stanley Cup playoffs on TV this year, seeing the fans when they showed them, and sort of just hearing the crowd through the television, just really incredible to see how invested the fans are in the team, and really backed by their fans, the team has been so successful.
Well, when you guys are 21, you can get down there and see a game. In a few years, yeah.
It's on my bucket list. All
right.
There you go. Well, Coach,
Coach, thank you so much again. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your summer.